Welcome back to another episode of the Conquer Cast. Question for you.
Answer.
When all is said and done, how do you feel like you'll measure your life? All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Conquer Cast. We're blessed today to have Katie Spotz here with us today. Me and Katie are just meeting for the first time right now, just a few minutes ago, but I was introduced to her by a mutual friend out in Ohio, and that's where you're from. Is that right, Katie?
Born and
Yeah.
raised.
Born and raised in Ohio. That is awesome. And this mutual friend said, "Hey, I've got this friend that's just incredible, accomplishing so many different things, conquering in so many different ways. She'd be the perfect guest for the Conquer Cast because she embodies what it means to conquer more in life, physically, mentally, socially, spiritually." And so I dove onto your Instagram and saw what you were doing, and I was blown away. I'm going to get some of this wrong, and so you'll have to correct us and talk us through your journey. But you've done some rows that have broken some records across some major oceans. You just did a 200-mile race in Ohio, basically probably covering the state of Ohio. And what I love about what you're doing too is that you're tying it to purpose and service, and you've provided clean drinking water to over 50,000 people. And you've got some upcoming events where you're going to take that past the 100,000 people point, which is incredible. I love that. Here at Mountain Ops, we provide food to hungry families and children, and I love that you're providing the clean water. So I've seen this. We postponed the podcast a little bit so that you could accomplish your summiting Mount Kilimanjaro, which you've just recently done. So we'll dive into that and so much. Did you serve in the military? You're still serving in the military?
I did. I got out in 2023, but I was a logistics officer in the Coast
Wow.
Guard.
Incredible. And thank you for your service. So I didn't know that about you until I was going through your social media and thought, wow, she's accomplishing a lot, serving a lot, and doing so much with so much purpose. So thank you for being on here and for blessing our audience.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is great. So really quick, just so those that don't know who you are, just a little snapshot of. I obviously just shared some of the highlight reels, but tell us who you are.
Sure. I would say that I'm an accidental adventurer. So I was a bench warmer growing up, and I had to take a gym class, and the easiest one I could find was walk, jog, run. And it was through that class that I ran 1 mile. And it was through that 1 mile that I'm doing all these adventures today. So it's basically bench warmer gone, doing these world records and doing these different endurance challenges with with a cause and a mission. So I very much believe that if you have a strong enough why, you could figure out how. And so my why is water. All of these adventures, it's swimming, biking, running, rowing, hiking, every form of movement basically to raise money for clean drinking water, and it's working. So yeah, because people have been so generous and kind and care, 50,000 people now have clean water because of running and rowing a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Where's that water going? Where is it being distributed right now?
So the great thing about teaming up with these nonprofits is that you can go anywhere in the world. And so I don't, if anywhere that needs water, let's
Yeah.
get it to them. So there are 18 different countries that have received clean water, about 200 different water projects. But the last campaign was to help a project in Tanzania because it was a hike for water in Tanzania. So it was an easy connect point to be able to raise money exactly where the adventure is unfolding.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I saw you post about, having carried the water on your head and the difficulty that. Tell us about that. Like, what did you experience? How eye-opening was that?
So I will say that the event before this hike that I did was a 200-mile run. And so even though I didn't train specifically for Kilimanjaro, I felt trained from running. And
Mm,
because the pace is so slow every day, I didn't really feel as challenged as I thought I might, but put that bucket on my head for 2 minutes and my shoulders and arms were shaking. I was so afraid of dropping all of this water. I mean, this is the daily story
mm.
of 1 in 10 people right now. And, I do these feats and post something, and people will give it the likes and everything. And we do these races and get the medals. And these people are doing this every single day without fanfare. So they're doing something even more difficult than
To
marathon.
survive, right?
Right, right. And it's just so mind-boggling and humbling, and there is hope in it. I think that's what gets me so fired up about clean water, is that first of all, we don't all agree to everything, but
Yeah,
everyone agrees to clean water, that
yeah.
it's a basic human need that everyone should have.
Mm,
And so it's, yeah, once you see and feel and know how much water can change everything. I mean, it's the first step out of poverty, and it affects all parts of life. If you care about education, if you care about women empowerment, if you care about youth, so it really touches everything, and it's a really easy one to want to do
yeah.
something about.
How much water were you carrying on your head? What's the typical day? 1 in 10 people carry water like that.
So I think that was a 40-pound bucket. I want to say, yeah,
Mm. And what?
40 pounds up and down this mountain, and they were doing it with like one hand.
Wow. What kind of distance are they typically going?
It's 4 miles is the
Wow.
average distance. This was likely shorter because it was on the hike, but in most other places throughout Africa, it is quite the
Yeah.
trek. But
Wow.
yeah, and I mean, it's going 4 miles for water, carrying that for water that might not even be clean. So
Yeah.
it's it's great that $10 can give one person access to clean water for a decade. And so
Wow.
there are some causes that, all of the causes are worthy. What's also great about clean water is that you don't have to spend millions of dollars on research. The solutions are already there, and
Mm,
they're pretty cost effective. Like when I cycled across South America, I used one of the Sawyer filters, and they're relatively inexpensive. You could get them at REI, and that's you can take Amazon river water and make it clean. And I never got sick for
mm.
that 3,000 miles of drinking water anywhere I could find it in South
Wow.
America. So
Wow.
yeah, that's a $20 filter.
Wow.
So
Well, congratulations on what you're doing, and that is it's the first step out of poverty. Give people that hope through clean drinking water. Are they is the money going to build wells and such? Is that how it's being used?
yes, so it really depends on the area. I was in Kenya maybe a decade ago helping build projects, and we were doing rainwater harvesting because it was so rainy. All they really needed to do was filter the water that was already there. And then a few hundred miles away, they didn't have rainy season in the
Mm,
same country, and that they had to do wells. So
okay.
the most cost effective is just doing rainwater capture and filtration, but it really just depends on the geography and what's available. But yeah,
Uh,
it's really great to see that it's getting better. It's
yeah.
a very big and daunting cause to get behind, but it is getting better, which
Yeah.
is, you know, the needle is moving.
That's awesome. Did your passion for providing clean water come from just educating yourself on it, or what was the where did this occur?
I was living in Australia when I was 19, and I was doing a semester abroad. And in Melbourne, they were experiencing a 10-year drought. So, what I was seeing was in the news when you could, like rules on when you could water your grass or wash your car, and just that perpetual fear of the water running out. And to me, that started shifting something like, wow, water is the thing. You could go to water parks, you could go to golf course, and the water's, you could go to any fast food place, they'll give you water for free. I mean, it just was this unlimited thing to me. And I was taking an environmental science class, and I remember this one sentence that forever changed, the path that I was on, and it was that the wars of the future will be on water, and in
Mm,
some countries, it's already the case. So
mm,
there are already countries in our world going to war over water, and to me, it was like saying, people are without air right now. It was just
mm,
too basic and fundamental. And so that's where I started to learn more. And um, I was just so blown away that I had lived 20 years on this planet, and yet I didn't know that 1 billion, 1 in 6 people, I didn't know that their daily life was this:
mm,
fetching water, being sick because of water. I mean, it just, knowing that, and then knowing that there were ways to solve it, yeah, I think there's certain things that are brought to your attention,
mm.
and it's like it plants the seed, and
Yeah.
it's
That's incredible. That's amazing. So you decided through driving through your pursuits physically that you would drive awareness to this purpose and to this service, and you went from sitting the bench to starting with 1 mile. I love the quote, the journey of 1,000 miles, and you've gone much more than 1,000 miles on different methods, but it begins with one single step or a single mile, right? Um, and did you ever consider that you'd accomplished so much in such a short amount of time? Or was that the goal, or did you kind of have all this planned out, or what was the first thing? You went the mile, but then what was the first, like, okay, I'm going big?
well, I will say that first of all, like, you know I am definitely proud of what has, happened over the last decade with endurance. I would say that the driving motivation is more curiosity, the kid like wonder of, can I climb that tree? Can I,
Mm,
jump over that puddle? It's just a very curious mind, and I'm just so fascinated by our potential, our limit, and seeing what it is. And so I think the reason I was, not very engaged in team sports is that you win, you lose, you tie. But in endurance, it's you get to discover and uncover the limit. And
mm,
once you start pushing it, you realize how much it can grow. And I don't know, it's just like we all have these superhuman abilities if we tap into it and if we have the patience to you know, so I don't think
mm.
this is special to me. I could go to a doctor and they'd be like, you're normal. Like, so uh, it's not because there's anything different about my body than anyone else's. It's just that, the curiosity to keep pushing beyond.
So
And
is there something more mentally strong about you than others? If like there's, because a lot of people I think are curious about things, but then it just stops right there, right? They're like, oh, I wonder if, or I wonder what it'd be like, or oh, they're doing it, but then they just don't do the thing. Were you raised in a family that pushed you to discover that? Is this naturally just a gift of like, oh, I'm curious and I'm actually gonna follow through? Or what gets someone that's listening right now to say, okay, I'm curious about that too, and here's a little bit of a nudge that I need? Or how does somebody find that?
there's so much to say. Well, First, I would say that I have, like, my last race was a 200-mile run. So you might think, oh, obviously 200 is much more difficult than a 1 mile run. But for me, the weight of my own doubt was the heaviest thing and the heaviest burden. Who am I to think I could do this? Or, why are you even trying? Or whatever narrative that you want to pick to prevent you from doing a thing. That's what I was running with when I ran my first mile. And so I don't think there's anything other than, um, I mean, once you, I hear what you're saying, but I'm still going to try. Um, I think once you realize that through trying and through, well, I'll just pause and say, one of the biggest lessons that endurance taught me is that just because you think you can't do something doesn't mean you're right. So we say, I don't think I can run a marathon. A lot of people will say that to me. And I say, oh, which ones have you tried? And they
Hmm.
say, oh, I haven't tried them. And I say, well, that's why you probably haven't, because you haven't even tried. So I think there's also a lot to say about failure. If you don't really care about taking on failure as a label, like you can fail and take it as a learning experience, I think that is another part of um, taking on challenges and doing it with a lightness and a freedom that failure doesn't define you. It's part of that process. It's actually
Hmm.
a good thing. It's
Yeah.
it's something to embrace rather than something to, you know, like yeah, it's definitely one step closer to whatever you're looking for.
Yeah. When did you realize you had that in you to kind of think that way?
I guess it's just experience. Yeah, I think experience is one of the greatest teachers. So that's definitely a slow kind of thing.
Yeah. What was after that first mile and you're like, okay, I can do these hard things. I can learn from them. I can grow. What was the first, like, okay, here's what I'm setting out to do. And why did you choose that first?
Yeah. So I did that class and I that curiosity, oh, can I run 1 mile? Okay, that turned into two, turned into three. And when I did a 10-mile run, I will say that, you know, every time I reached a new milestone, I did celebrate it like it was this rocky moment. I
Hmm.
never minimized it. And I think that's an important part, that to really celebrate the tiniest wins, because you don't get to those big wins without those
Yeah.
tiny wins. So I got curious about the marathon and it blew my mind. I didn't know anyone who had done a marathon. I knew the story of a marathon, that someone delivered a message and then died. So to me, I was like, whoa, this is, superhuman. And so
I don't know the story of a marathon. What I don't mean to interject, but what's the story of
a long time ago in Athens or something, someone was delivering a message, had to, when they had to run to deliver messages. Someone did a 26-mile, and
Okay.
that's something about that.
That's
Blew me
awesome.
after,
And then they,
and
because of the
now
run. Okay, I could feel like yeah,
now
I mean, I felt like I was about to die on my first marathon, but it was incredible. I didn't, and then you're like, oh, what could I do now?
yeah.
So that's too bad.
Well,
I didn't know that somebody died after the first marathon, and somebody else
like
said, well, then I'll do that and see if I don't die. That's quite the risk when you're maybe the second person to run a letter 26.2 miles.
it is fun to see what the origin, like
Yeah.
the whole Iron Man was, three people were, from my understanding, three people were debating what is the hardest challenge. Is it the running the marathon, cycling the century plus, or swimming the couple miles, and so that's kind of
Mm,
how that one started.
that's
But
awesome.
I saw, so I did the marathon, and it was, you know, it was like a 5 hour marathon. I'm not, this is very much like, I started from a slower pace. And um, once I saw that there were people who looked like me, people that were teenagers to 80-year-olds and all walks of life, that's where I realized that this really is more mental. And there's
Mm,
really this huge mental piece to it. And so I kind of checked it at the door, all those excuses about, who am I? And I'm not one of them. You know, I used to think marathons were for a certain body type, and now I realize every body type can do it
hmm
with training and patience and following plans. And
Yeah.
there's other pieces to it than just sheer will and determination, but it's really exciting to do things where you are the only limit. Like
Yeah.
you're almost you're the greatest limitation is yourself, and
Mm,
so you get to decide how far you want to go, and
yeah.
you versus you.
How is that applied in life? Because it seems like that's probably the greatest. We're our greatest limitation in life as well in most aspects, right? Do you ever kind of parallel your physical feats to kind of life experience and?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's the gold in doing all these things, is that it really was never about the medal. It was about the mentality that you can carry through and you could bring forth through all of your life experiences. And I mean, there is so much mental, you know, there's so much that goes into the mindset of doing hard things, that when you have hard things in your life that come up outside of running, you already have the tools and you already have the habit. In endurance, like there's basic things like, um, when I'm very tired, instead of saying, this is hard, this is so hard, I say, this is easy, I can do this all day.
Hmm.
Is it easy? Could I do it all day? Maybe not. But just putting and planting that in me makes it easier. If you listen to a recording that is, this is hard, then it's going to make it more difficult. So when you're not running and you have something else in your life happen, you can bring that forth,
Hmm.
that mentality. And there's a lot of reframing during events, and gratitude. I think gratitude, if you learn to lean into that, uh, endurance, it's, I get to do this, I don't
Hmm.
have to do this, and then you can carry that into your day-to-day life. I mean, those small words make a difference.
It's huge. Yeah. What are you most grateful for when you're doing these things? Like what is there a certain aspect of life or relationships or what is it that kind of comes to the top of your mind when you're doing these things and you're like, I get to do this and you feeling grateful?
Well, when some, I mean, I'm also included in this. People say just 1 mile. I think about, there is someone right now that would give everything and anything to have the health to run or walk 1 mile.
Mm,
And yeah, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about the gift of health. So the ability to move at all is such a gift and a blessing. It's like, why wouldn't you want to steward that in the best way possible?
mm,
So I think it's really just a celebration of that ability. Um,
it's
Sometimes when
awesome.
I'm running, it'll be like, this mile, I'm going to think about being grateful for this person and why. And so that's another one that is good to. you know, again, refocus on something
Mm,
positive in moments. If you could convince yourself during the hardest moments that it's joyful and easy, I mean, that's great for real life outside of
mm.
this.
I love that. Yeah. I did that on my first marathon. I did the Moab Trail Marathon as my first, and it was incredible. I reached out to um, around 25 friends and asked them to provide me just like a song. It was actually a song, like their favorite song that would encourage me on the race. So I put together a playlist. And I know some people don't put, songs, they like to just be present, but I did that. And then I laminated a list of these people. And so for every mile I had somebody, I listened to their song and I thought about how grateful that person was. And I ran that mile for them. And there were on that list people that couldn't run, people that are in wheelchairs,
Right.
uh, a young man with cancer who's recently passed away. And his song for me was "You're Gonna Know I Was Here." And it was when that hit me, it was just like, oh my goodness. And I ran for my wife and each of my children and my parents and some siblings. I ran for my team here at Mountain Hops, and the gratitude carried me forward. It was I get to do this and I'm loving it and it's easy. And honestly, it was easy until about mile 20. And then I just, like, I don't know if that's where typically I've heard people say 18, 20, between
Right.
there. That's like, and those last miles were, some of them were for myself and some of them were for God. And I really had to, like, draw from some extra power that I didn't have, with it. Well, I had it within me, but I didn't know. I'd never done it before. I had never run that long. But it's amazing what the human mind can do when it's attached to an emphasis on gratitude or connection to individuals that bring power and ability into our life. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I experienced that on my first marathon, and it was an incredible experience. So,
So,
but
are you going to be back for more running adventures?
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm trying to figure one out for this coming year. Maybe you have something to recommend for me. I've not gone past the marathon point now. I've done a bunch of half marathons. I love running on the trails. I don't mind doing one on the street at some point, but I haven't yet. I've just been, I mean, right outside my door here is trails that go for miles in the mountains, and that's what I love. So, and a little easier on my joints and such, and just adds variety to the scenery and the terrain. I think it's incredible. So yeah, maybe you can throw me some ideas that.
Well, I mean, this is one that's made me very curious. It's the Everesting events. So, if you want to climb Mount Everest, it's a lot of money and it's very
Yeah,
dangerous. And so, if you just want that pure physical challenge and that community, I haven't done one, but it looks like a great time where they go to ski resorts in the summer
yeah,
and they do the equivalent of Mount Everest. And I think I first saw this in COVID when people were just going stir crazy that some people would
yeah,
do this in their stairwells. And I think that's a cool concept that, not everyone could go off and do Everest but to bring that to a much
yeah.
more
It,
away.
they do one 25 minutes from my house right here at Snow Basin Ski Resort. So and I hadn't, honestly, I've heard about it, but I had never thought of it. Maybe I need to look into that further. Maybe that's the direction I.
Yeah, I have to also say I haven't done it. So, but it is one that definitely is like, wow, that's a fun idea
It
because
is. It is really cool.
I think you will honestly be able to connect with people more if you want to on that than on Everest because you can walk side by side.
Mm,
So I think there are even some benefits to doing
to
that.
connection. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, obviously there's some stuff with altitude and you're less likely to do. I mean, there's doing the athletic part and then there's the how your body needs to adapt to new environment part, like
Yeah.
altitude sickness that could really make it not possible to tap into the more athletic pursuit. So it seems
Right.
like a more athletic pursuit in some ways than
Yeah.
Mount Everest.
Hmm. That's awesome. I'm gonna look that up. Search it up and see what it's all about, and maybe that's what I'm looking for the adventure and for the challenge for this coming year. And I've got a few ideas, but that one definitely would top it for sure as far as difficulty and really putting myself out there for an opportunity to challenge myself. But that's kind of what I want.
I think there's a long wait list or something like that. I think
Is that
those are,
really?
I think it's one of those that you have to sign up immediately or, yeah.
Mm,
There's some ultra runs that are like that too, that
yeah,
like an hour or else it's going to fill.
crazy. Well, I guess there's not a ton of people that do those things, but there's enough that some of these are capped at a certain number of people, and so you do have to get in on 'em. But that's awesome. You just had a major summit to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Tell us about that, and tell us what that process was like, and the preparation. And
Yeah. So, um, I've done a swim for water, ride for water, row for water. And so this was something that I've even done a rollerblading escape for water. So this idea of
I
doing
like that.
yeah, it was a fun one. It was rollerblading across the Florida Keys, so I was on water for 100 and for a lot of it for 112 miles, but
Wow.
like 7 mile bridge I went across. Anyways,
Oh,
I
cool.
wanted to try like a different sport and I did not train for it because I did a 200-mile run and I have lost my toenails so many times that they don't grow back correctly. And so the best thing that I could do is have one of them permanently removed. So it was a very slow recovery
Mm,
because it needs to stay dry. And
mm,
so even walking too much, like not even if your core temperature goes up at all, it's gonna make that harder to heal. So
wow.
I had to take 6 weeks of kind of chilling before the climb. But
Mm,
I will say that, you know, I do have years of endurance training that I could, muscle memory just
it's awesome.
so there wasn't a lot. I did do the Spartan in Vermont, and that was a 6,000 feet half marathon. So that was a good way to get in some climbing before I had that foot thing. But yeah, I loved it. It was very different than anything I've done before. I think mountains are very awe-inspiring.
Mm,
Uh, it was just jumping from doing 200 to that. I think it was harder for me to kind of slow down my pace, and that is intentional with the altitude sickness.
yeah.
I probably would have had altitude sickness if we didn't take it as slow as we did. But yeah, I would say my favorite part by far was running down the mountain.
Mm,
And it just feels like flying. Like that's the closest you're going to get to flying. And it's a little bit more exciting because you have to be so aware of
yeah.
every single step. And you kind of move in your body a little bit different, more free and playful. So I loved the downhill and just the excitement of that.
Mm,
And yeah, it was everything. We had rainforest at the beginning, 80 degrees, and then by the end it was like my hair was literally frozen and we had bottles that had water and that was frozen. So
wow.
it was very cold and I guess 20,000 feet is the death zone, which is when it has less than 30% oxygen. So
Mm.
we only stayed at the summit for about 20 minutes, but we were
And
able
what's the summit? What's the elevation there?
19,000.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's the distance?
Um, We did the Machame route, so it's a little bit longer. I don't actually know. I do know I probably did hit a PR on my slowest mile though, because sometimes we were going 1 mile per hour. So,
Wow.
uh, yeah,
Because of the elevation gain that you had to kind of pace at that, or because the yeah,
yeah.
okay. That's discipline right there. I mean, that for somebody that moves distances and moves at a faster pace to slow you, that's a difficult mental challenge right there.
You nailed it. Like I posted some updates about it and I was, talking about if you're a runner, you'll understand this concept that say you're running with someone who has a slower pace, it can be much more difficult to run slower than just to run
Yeah.
your normal pace because you're thinking so much about. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love running is that you can just get in that flow and get in the zone and really, um, yeah, kind of get in this meditative state. But when you're going slower, it's a lot of, preserving and, uh, yeah,
Mm.
holding back.
Holding
So,
it back.
but that's going to be great training for my next one, which will require a lot of that. Being more conservative and, um, yeah, my next one will be my biggest
What's the
endurance.
next?
So next December, it'll be rowing 10,000 miles from Lima, Peru to Papua New Guinea. So all the way across the Pacific, solo and unsupported. So there'll be no follow boat and no stopovers. And yeah, I'll be at sea for 8 to 10 months. And
In that by yourself, like not getting off onto boats or anything? You're just alone.
just going 10,000 miles. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
so so how do you I mean
Mile 10,000 times.
you must I mean you've got to be really good within your own head, I'm assuming. Like I had the Iron Cowboy on here and he's like, I enjoy my own thoughts. You have to be okay with yourself to be in a situation. Is that come naturally to you? Is that something you've built over time, or you how do you do that?
Okay, so I will say that one of the things through doing Mount Kilimanjaro, obviously there's benefits to doing it in a group. You can have shared memories, you could lean on each other, you could help each other. Oh, I have these snacks. I mean, you could laugh about certain things, tell stories. As soon as I ran solo, like when we were close enough to camp where they would let me, the porters would be like, okay, you're fine. Um, it's almost like colors became brighter and I was more aware of nature and I was
Mm,
more in touch with that. So both are great for different reasons. I think it I think I am a very much solo sport. Even with ocean rowing, I think if I had a teammate, it wouldn't really be rowing across the Pacific. It would be rowing half of the Pacific or a third or a fourth of the
hmm
Pacific. And doing Ironmans and all of these races, you don't split the Ironman. I mean, I guess some races do that kind of thing, but I couldn't. Yeah, I think I like the completeness of knowing and taking ownership and,
mm,
um, yeah, there's not a lot of opportunity in life to be required to dig deep to that level. And so by doing it solo, there is really no other option but to overcome. And when
mm,
you're to do that, I mean, it is kind of like putting yourself in this situation. I wouldn't say do or die, but like it's like you gotta figure some stuff out on your own.
wow.
And there is there is a emergency beacon. I could call for help. There is a life raft. I do have VHF radio. I will have Starlink. I will do a lot of training. I have the experience of the Atlantic. There are safety measures. I have the experience of the Coast Guard. I know, that. it's dangerous, but also there's a lot of safety elements built in for everyone.
What is there anything about it that causes you fear, or that you're most aware of, like a danger or?
I mean, I think it's similar to people who do rock climbing and mountaineering and it is. But like when I rode across the Atlantic and said goodbye to my family, we all did have tears in my eyes as if it might potentially be the last time I'd see them again. So I am afraid of that. I think that's a, a healthy fear that can be channeled into protective action.
Yeah.
But I have tried to convince myself not to do the Pacific, and it didn't work. I've so here I am. I know it is dangerous. I try to convince myself, talk myself out of it, but I would stuff it down and it kept calling. And so I really do
Mm,
feel more of a call to.
okay,
And
I love that.
this is the God moments in life.
Yeah.
You take on something that is clearly above your pay grade. How is it possible? God. And so, yeah, these adventures are great. I could take credit for stewarding it, but I know at the end of the day, God gave me these abilities. So it really is all thanks to Him that any of it is possible. But
I love that.
yeah, a lot of God moments.
Good.
Oh, I think I almost every time I have an event, like I could have had a lot of challenges on the mountain with my toe surgery or surgical procedure, God moment, and yet still able to summit. Um, yeah, over and over again. When you're realizing that you alone don't have the strength, you have to lean on something bigger.
Mm. That's powerful. I love that. And I mean that's key. That's one of the messages we try to send very loud and clear to our community. Our number one core value at Mountain Ops is recognizing God and striving to acknowledge His hand in all things, even in the workplace. But when we're out trying to conquer more, achieve more, and especially when we're feeling called to do more from Him, like He's not going to ask us to do something that we're not capable of. He's there to back us all the way. And especially if you're leaning on that strength, there's an ability to do way more than we could have ever anticipated on our own. What do you think that'll look like out there on the ocean, and your connection to God? How will that strengthen that? And what are you kind of hoping for, some additional connection to Him through this experience that is part of the outcome?
So I will say that when I did the Atlantic, I did not have, I was raised Catholic, but I wasn't grounded or rooted in faith. And
Mm-hmm.
so even though I'm rowing, like I rowed an ocean then, and I'm attempting to row an ocean again, I feel like this journey is going to be significantly different because of faith. And the how is when you do things and don't have a relationship with God. For me personally, what it felt like was more fear based. Like obviously there's endorphins, there's highs, but there is some fear based motivation. Like I can't fail because then I'll be a failure. Okay, so now there's faith. And how does that change everything? Now I feel like it's more joy based and light because if at the end of the day you're a boss and you're reporting to God, He won't judge you on abilities He didn't give you. So
Mm,
if you fail, it's it has nothing to do with your worth. And so there is a heaviness of caring about the world, and there is a lightness when realizing that that doesn't matter,
mm,
and your identity is not based on what you achieve. And
mm.
so um, I do feel like this is, I mean, there's so much to be said about time in silence, time in prayer, time in meditation. And this is, it is like an active prayer and meditation. And I mean, I will just be immersed in, I know people have a different relationship with the water, but it's where I feel most home. So I
Mm,
get front row seat in front of something so awe-inspiring created by God. And so
mm,
could you not? I don't know what that will look like, but I'm just eager to learn and grateful that faith is present so that in those trying moments it won't feel like I am alone, even though,
mm.
you know, it's so
That's
apparent.
awesome. That's incredible. I love that you've shared this, and I think back at the start of this conversation, you talked about your curious mind, and so it's like you're now taking that curious mind as you're looking forward to this adventure. What will you learn? And now having it more rooted in faith and a relationship with God, it'll be, I'm sure, so much more revealed to you along the way as to what you should be taking from this and the perspective that the ocean and the challenge and the waves and everything send your way. I often read scripture that we've had some financial difficulties in life as a family in prior years, and I always felt like the storms and the wind and the waves, like I read scripture about the mountainous waves and the winds on the waters and this and that, and I always saw them and still feel as if they're just God's hand pushing us in the right direction, pushing us towards a brighter future, towards more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding, perspective, and that perspective offers empathy. So I can only imagine, over an 8-month period of time, being out on the water with God and His creations, and using your own strength to push yourself forward. What perspective that's going to afford you that you can then utilize to bless His children. I think that's what perspective is all about, and empathy is one of the greatest gifts that we can offer to another, is understanding through the things that we've experienced how to respond to the need of another. So I want to do another follow-up podcast once you're done and see what was the journey like. What did you learn? What was the connection like with God? And as I think of that, I didn't know that this was on the horizon for you. Like, a lot of logistical questions come into my mind. Like, how do you eat out there? Like, how do you pack all that? What's your boat look like sitting in the dark at night on the ocean by yourself? That doesn't, like that's kind of scary, isn't it? It's like, what? Or maybe not for you.
Scary. In your body, fear and excitement are pretty much the same.
Same,
Like
yeah.
your heart rate elevates, you become more. And so I think, yes, I'm afraid, but also if you redirect that, it is pretty exciting. And
Yeah.
I will say that like I started enjoying the Coast Guard because I wanted to be a rescue swimmer because I like there's wave pools, and when I was a kid I'd be at the front where you can't go any closer because I wanted to be engulfed by waves. And
Hmm.
so that does make me feel alive. And I think life can sometimes feel a little bit black and white and when I'm on adventure it's like full color, all the it just life feels so bright and bold and exciting on adventure. It's almost like you get to be a kid again
Hmm.
and just experience newness and wonder every single day. Of course it's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And um you're always learning something in those hard moments, and those hard moments are preparing you for other things.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's awesome. On your last row, it was at 3,100 miles. Is that what it was? What were the biggest learnings from that you came away with?
um well, this one is, so at the halfway point, usually when I do these events, like say a marathon, and then I reached 13, and then I'm like, wow, there's this huge boost because it's this moment I could say I'm closer to the end than I am to the start. It's the home stretch. I could say, there's just many reasons why halfway was a good benchmarker filled with joy, right? And excitement.
Hmm.
When I reached the halfway mark on the Atlantic, I felt like I am probably one of the furthest people away from others on the planet right now. Every ounce of my energy, I haven't been able to sleep for months. You don't sleep very well. Uh,
Really?
I've already listened to all the music that really gets me up. I felt depleted. I felt like I, I could not imagine doing that. That sounds great. Uh, and that was where I was. I was like, well, I that was felt impossible just doing that part. I can't. So what I told myself is I'm not rowing 3,000 miles. It's too big. It's too daunting. Instead, I'm going to row 1 mile 3,000 times. And it's
Mm.
really that mindset. When everything is so overwhelming, it was just a matter of breaking it down. How can I break it down so small that it's no longer overwhelming?
Mm.
Maybe it's just this one song, and maybe it's just this, 1 hour of listening to this audiobook or that. And the truth is, every big thing happens through those baby small steps. And we do this in other parts of life. Say you go get a college degree, if I would tell you every essay you have to write, every book you have to read, every quiz for your 4 year degree, you'd look at that and be like, that is too much. But it's broken down semester by semester, class by class. And so we do it in other parts of life,
Yeah.
and it's structured that way. How can we create that structure in areas that it's not necessarily immediately built in? And so reminding myself that it's really just that baby step that matters. And that's kind of what's exciting about adventure too, is that no 1 mile is more important than the rest. They're all equally important because they
Mm.
all matter.
Yeah. Ah, that's incredible. That's amazing. I've never met anyone that's done something like this that you've done. I've met a lot of runners, bikers, marathon, Ironmen, Iron women, but nothing like this, especially where you're just there alone. And I love the thought, if I have somebody with me that they're doing half of it, I'm doing half of it. It's like, um, logistically though, like,
Yes.
what's your boat look like? How do you store things? Can you move around a little bit? Is there, do you carry all the food with you for the whole time, or do somebody bring you food along the way? Do you have
So,
enough charging? Like you said, you're listening to
yeah.
stuff. Do you
Okay.
have charging packs, or like what's going on out there?
I have for my Atlantic, I had a 19-foot boat, carbon fiber. This Pacific, because it's 8 months, it's going to be 23 feet. It's a little bit longer. Structurally, it's very similar. It is self-righting as long as your hatches are closed. Then, if the boat flips, it'll flip back over. That's the important part. There are two cabins.
Did that ever happen to you?
No, but
No.
I will be able to do some drills this April or this May. I'm going over to the Netherlands to train with the boat. It's being built right now, but
Okay.
definitely want to do some capsize
Yeah.
drills. There are there are like straps that I had, so it helps you, and it's padded in there so that you can prevent concussion, and I have a helmet. And so yeah, this boat will be about 400 pounds with provisions. It might be closer to 2,000. I do have all of my food on board. Most of it is dehydrated meals. And then I do have a sprouting kit. So I'll have some sprouts and different, protein bars. And um, I'm actually testing out a lot of freeze dried stuff right now. But
Mm.
every ounce you're pulling. So you really want to make sure, I mean, yeah, I'll have 1,000,000 calories on the boat, so it's around 5,000 calories a day. I won't have all the water. So what I have is a desalinator, which converts the salt water into drinking water, and
Hmm.
everything's powered by the sun. So I have two solar panels, which power everything, the water, and then all the electronics. So I will have Starlink, GPS, radar, um, and what else about this boat can I tell you? Um, is there anything I missed?
So if
Uh,
there is an emergency, there is an inflatable raft. Is that what you do, or
well, you, if you can stay with the boat,
that's best?
yeah, because you have 8
Supplies.
months worth of gear. If it's too dangerous to, the life raft is most likely to be helpful if there is a rescue, to
Mm,
stay with the boat until the rescue and then
okay.
go on it, so it's easier to buck you out. But there it could take a day depending on where I am to get help. So yeah, you
Yeah.
got to have everything. And um, the biggest things that I'm concerned about is, I mean, I didn't have this on the Atlantic, but 3 months is very different than 8 months. Salt sores is a big one. And if you have any kind of open wounds, it's very easy to get infected. It's in that wet environment, it doesn't provide the best environment for anything to heal.
Hmm.
And so it will really be like making sure I have, yeah, a lot of baby wipes and a solar shower where I can wipe off every day, and being on top of hygiene. My hands probably won't look very great. And yeah, I think uh, my seat setup, like I am getting a custom mold, and I mean, if I'm sitting there for 8 months, it better be pretty good. So
Yeah, no kidding. Does it like massage you and everything? Is it like a massage
I
chair?
don't know if I can add that
Or...
feature, but it might be nice. I was going this morning and I was like, wow, 1 hour in, I feel it. So, I mean, it's cycling too. Cycling is not known for the most comfortable seat, and sometimes less
Right.
is more if you just have the cutouts and stuff. That actually is better just to have it on those little some pressure points. But this one is also a row for water. So I'm so excited because there's only two other countries that have reached a point of not having clean water and then saying everyone in our country has clean water.
Hmm.
It's Liberia and the Marshall Islands, and Fiji is 100,000 people away from reaching that milestone. So through
Wow.
this row, it'll be like pioneering in humanitarianism to be able to say we can help everyone in Fiji, or help reach the point where everyone in Fiji has clean water. So
Wow.
uh, I think, it's like Fiji water, it has the best water in the world. And yes, it is great water on the main island, but there's 300 islands and they're very hard to get to. And
Mm,
it's more about the very far. And I think it's easy to think clean water, Africa, that's the hardest place to get water, but it's actually even more difficult in some places like the Philippines and Fiji to reach
mm.
people because of water,
Wow.
and how difficult it is to you know get there.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's the goal: 100,000 people, raise 1 million for clean water. And this April, I'll be visiting Fiji to see some of those projects and become
Cool.
more aware of what's going on. And
And then do you have your own foundation, or do you just drive awareness to these foundations and sponsors are sponsoring your event, your row? How does that work for you to
so
raise that money?
it depends on the campaign, but for this one, I have a nonprofit called One Drop Matters, and I partner with other nonprofits. So they're the ones on the ground building the things. I stay my lane, which is
Yeah.
the front end, awareness raising. So, and then distributing all the funds that are raised to the charity is called Give Clean Water. So mine is One Drop Matters, and it's in support of a nonprofit called Give Clean Water.
Cool. That's awesome. What's your team look like? Who do you have around you supporting you, to help you, to encourage you? Have you had doubters? Have you had people tell you no? Like what's that look like?
Uh, well, the good news is anyone who's said doubt, I've already walked through all the doubt because
Hmm.
whatever you've said, I've probably said to myself, but even more. So yes, that will likely occur, but I think having done the Atlantic does give me some credibility that
Yeah.
at least I have 3 months of experience. Um, Even this morning, I mean, I started my day surrounded by support of it's a rowing facility called the Foundry. It's a nonprofit that helps the community get more involved with rowing and
Mm.
sailing. And so they have it's Olympic level type indoor water tanks. It
Mm.
is literally the closest thing to ocean rowing that I've ever experienced. And so it's yeah, it's an indoor water tank, and I
Wow.
think the longest one. So that's definitely part of my team. I am working with a sports psychologist who worked with me on the Atlantic. My boat builder, he is amazing. He broke the world record for the fastest solo two-person and four-person.
Mm.
He also took second in I think it's called the Golden Globe. It's the sailing around the world. So second fastest sail around the world.
Wow.
And he's using like I have the best boat in the world. I have the
Mm.
best boat that's ever been in existence.
That's
So
awesome.
that gives me a lot of confidence knowing that he's building these boats that he's smashing world records in. And um, there was a Pacific crossing recently of three guys called the McLean brothers, and they used his boat and had really good, success with not having much technical difficulties. And yeah, it's kind of like a Coke bottle where it's like this, yeah, good luck trying to sink it kind of thing. So, I have that. I am working with a nutritionist to look over everything. Right now, I'm just seeing what tastes good, and then I'll
Yeah.
go to her and make sure, especially with electrolytes and how much I'm sweating, and um, we got that. And then Muddy Group is another
Yeah.
piece of this that is helping with the PR type stuff, so that we
They're
can be
awesome.
active on social media and film and I'm sure there's more to come. But I mean, I really do feel lucky to have the friends and family I do because they get it
Yeah.
and they're there. And even this morning when I was rowing with a friend, we were plotting how she's gonna, come at the end or should she come at the start. And so, yeah,
That's
there,
cool.
there are definitely friends part of it.
Do you have family or friends that are doing similar feats, or they kind of doing their own thing just different ways, or
Um, I
have
have
you had a role model or someone that's like, oh, they're doing this kind of thing, I want to do something similar?
Well, definitely the McLeans for doing the Pacific, and they raised £1 million for clean water. So there's no better,
Mm.
you know, role model on how to do it for a purpose and really make an impact through it. It's one thing to do it; it's a whole other thing to do it well for a cause.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely inspired by my friends. My one of my friends, she just did her first 100-mile run. I've done Spartan races and shorter stuff with friends and high rocks. I did
Mm.
that. with some friends. So definitely try to include and incorporate friends um, on the shorter stuff. Even when I cycled across South America, one of my friends joined for a week of that. So um, yeah, I'm just trying to think who's doing the biggest thing. But yeah, I would say the marathon, a lot of marathon running type friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're probably the friend that's doing the biggest thing. I mean, and it's all personal, right? So everyone's doing their big thing. But this is incredible what you're doing. I'm inspired by it. I can't wait to see you accomplish this and conquer it. And I can't wait to see the outcome. Obviously, for the clean water that will go to people that need it, but also for you personally, just the experience you have with yourself and with nature and with God. I'm really curious to know what God inspired, and obviously some of that may be personal, but I'm excited for that for you. I love any experience in life that helps inspire within us our potential, and then how that ripple effect can have as you demonstrate that to others, and them you kind of awakening the divine within them, and maybe rising to a new potential they didn't know they had. And that's what you'll do for people. It's what you've been doing for people. And I appreciate that about the life that you're living. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. God willing, right? Like
Yeah,
I'll keep going as long as I can, and as long as God gives me the ability to do it, I'm
yeah.
just here for the ride.
That's awesome. I heard you say earlier, I asked about role model, and then I thought you said role model. Was it a role model or a role model? Do
Both.
you, both? That's awesome. Well, thanks for being a role model and a role model for so many. R- just to kind of wrap things up, I read a book once. We actually read it as a Mountain Ops team every once in a while. It's called "How Will You Measure Your Life?" is the title of it. I love it. Um, and you're leaving quite the legacy. You're performing some amazing things. And I'm sure just as much as these incredible summits, you're impacting lives in a personal way with your friends and family, and just through the simple daily things that you do. You look at a lot of people that do these major accomplishments, and it's like that you could easily say that's what defines them. And I love that you talked about that's not where your value is found. I'm sure there's so much in between now and when you do that thing that defines you in so many ways and brings value to your life and other people's lives in so many ways. But when all is said and done, as a true conqueror in life, because I believe that you are, how do you feel that you will measure your life?
I mean, the most immediate is the 100,000 people with clean water, and these are faith based. At least the last nonprofits that I've worked with, the one in Tanzania is called the Bucket Ministry, so it's not just clean water. And so 100,000 people with clean water. That I mean, there's so much more, but that is the most concrete one
Mm,
that is on the forefront of my mind. I mean, it feels so doable, achievable, and impactful that
mm,
there's just no question about it. It just yeah,
that's awesome.
a calling, I guess, is what it would the best word for it.
Yeah. No, and it's inspiring when someone finds when they're kind of on their path with purpose, and they feel that call from God. They're given that opportunity in life to really go after something that obviously is impacting your life, but impacting hundreds of thousands of lives. And so much symbolism to water and faith as well. I think of the woman at the well, and I think of the water that's given, and that if we drink of this water, we'll thirst no more. There's just so much hope and confidence delivered to an individual who may not, or probably is not, feeling that hope and confidence because of the simple necessity that we take for granted in life, that we have just at our fingertips, that we have in abundance. And so I appreciate the work you're doing to deliver that hope and confidence, and even that living water as you recognize God in the journey, that that we need in life.
Well,
So
I appreciate what you're doing. I got water and you got food, so we got.
yeah. Well, and I look forward to it. We'll have to connect and see how we can support you in this journey. See if there's anything that we can do to be a part of the mission that you're on. And so we'll connect on that outside of this podcast. But Katie, any last words that you want to share before we wrap up?
If you'd like to support the cause, yeah, especially as we're fundraising for the Pacific, I'm on Instagram, Katie Spotz, and Facebook, Hello Katie Spotz, and there's a link to donate. So,
Cool.
100% of those donations go directly to the clean water projects in Fiji.
It's amazing. Amazing. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for delivering a message to our listeners right now that will truly help them conquer more in life. That's what this is all about. And thank you for being a conqueror. Thank you for your time and attention today.
Thank you.